Good evening, Baylor College of Medicine graduates, families, and friends. I am David Baldwin, Chair of the Board of Trustees of Baylor College of Medicine, and it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to your 2021 graduation ceremony. Over the last year, the board has been inspired by the responses of the Baylor faculty, staff, and to the trainees to this pandemic. You faced the challenges in completing your education with determination and fortitude. We are so proud of you for stepping up to help in clinical and research areas and in the innovative ways that you supported the Baylor community and the Houston community. You are graduating from one of the best medical schools in the country during a once-in-a-lifetime global health care crisis. Each of you have been well prepared for any challenge in your career, and you can take pride in having a degree from Baylor College of Medicine. On behalf of the entire board, congratulations on becoming alumni. We know that you will make us all very proud as you begin the next phase of your professional careers. It is now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Paul Klopman, our President, CEO, and Executive Dean, who recently celebrated his 10th year at Baylor this October. Since the day he arrived at Baylor, Dr. Klopman has presented a clear vision of how to build on our foundation of excellence for an even brighter future. He has led Baylor's response to the pandemic and has been a strong voice with local, state, and national leaders. At the same time, he has been a calming voice for our community in helping people understand how to deal with COVID-19. Will you please join me in welcoming one of academic medicine's strongest leaders, Dr. Paul Klopman.
Come on, that was really lame applause. I was expecting much more from you than that. This is the first time we've all been together. I mean, this is kind of amazing when you think about it. We haven't had a chance to all sit together, and it has been a remarkable year. I think we can all agree to that. And I've also decided this is my last pandemic. I'm not doing this again, and I think we should all just agree, no more pandemics. But it's been a very interesting couple of years. We've really witnessed a real struggle of, I think of our national sense of fairness, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And one of the great strengths of our country, I firmly believe, is our diversity. And we all know that diverse opinions lead to much better answers to complex questions. But that doesn't come easily, and you have to work at diversity. It requires constant attention to make sure all members of our society feel that they're welcomed and included. One of the clearest insights from this pandemic has been the inequality of its impact. It has truly exposed disparities in local, national, and across the world, all the access to care. Those individuals with fewer resources were and are still being hit hardest by COVID. Those countries with the fewest resources have been hit the hardest by the pandemic, and they're also the last to receive vaccines. Unlike governments, policies, and people, viruses do not discriminate. They're just looking for the easiest human hosts, and sometimes policies and governments and individual behaviors make it all too easy for the virus to replicate. But because of all the viral mutants in the world that have the potential to come back here and infect us, it's in our best interest, our own personal interest and the world's best interest, that we make sure that everyone in this world is safe from this particular disease. And you are all now experts in disasters, more than any other class that we've ever had here. You trained in the middle of a pandemic. You've experienced Hurricane Harvey. You've had the most understanding, I think, of any class to understand the importance of both science and medicine. And you've seen that we healthcare workers and scientists are truly on the front lines. Medicine and science have brought treatments and vaccines in record time. In the past, many people never really understood what a medical school does or what academic health centers really do, but it has never been clearer to our nation now the importance of public health and breakthrough science in our daily lives. You've been lucky to be in the middle of it, and my guess that these experiences that you've had will be the most formative for the rest of your lives. And how lucky we are that we can be together tonight because of the great advances in sciences and medicine. So take this opportunity to reflect upon your experiences here and to thank all the people in your lives that made it possible. And remember the values you learned here and apply them to future decisions you will make. The profession you are entering is complicated and just getting more and more so. But after your experiences here, I know that you'll wake up each and every day knowing you're doing something worthwhile and important for society. And whether you're continuing your career at Baylor or going elsewhere, I hope you'll remember that you train in a community based on very strong values. We are also a community made up of people from all over the world with different experiences, different points of view, different skills, and different life stories. And I challenge you to be leaders who recognize that diversity brings strength to your work. Our training at Baylor has given you all the tools that you need to be successful, and I am confident that wherever your career takes you, that each and every one of you will make a difference in the communities that you work and live in. So I just want to offer my congratulations. Congratulations to the class of 2021. More applause.
Thank you, Dr. Klopman. Baylor's premier educational programs involve the efforts of many, many people. It takes more than a village. I'd like to thank our chancellor, Dr. Bert O'Malley, the department chairs, the center directors for their leadership, their commitment, and their service. Our students are supported throughout their training by the outstanding leadership and work of our deans, associate deans, assistant deans, program directors, and our faculty in all of our schools. These leaders, with the support of our administrative team, as well as our faculty and alumni, they all play a very important role and make extraordinary contributions to the education mission and to the mission of Baylor College of Medicine. Finally, I want to thank the leaders at Baylor's 8 affiliated teaching hospitals for the essential contributions they provide to ensure our students have exceptional clinical training experiences. Their partnership and support of the mission and our students is vital to our outstanding programs and to our success. It is now my great pleasure and honor to introduce Dr. Robert McLaughlin, this year's recipient of Baylor's Distinguished Leadership Award. Dr. McLaughlin, will you please join me? Dr. McLaughlin has served in leadership roles at Baylor College of Medicine School of Health Professions. In formal leadership roles before these dates, but just know that he's had formal leadership roles as well. Since 2011, he's had formal leadership roles, and he's served as dean since 2015. And it is with great humility, pleasure, and happiness for him, not so much for me, that he'll retire on June 30th, and he will serve as Dean Emeritus. Dr. McLaughlin has lent his extraordinary dedication, commitment to excellence, and his expertise throughout the school's curriculum and training programs, including substance abuse prevention, early childhood violence counseling, motivational interviewing, cancer education and prevention, and his work has impacted Baylor students, local teachers, middle and high school students, and others. And even though he thinks he's getting ready to retire, he is already getting amazing calls from all over the country to offer him opportunities to continue to share his extraordinary expertise. I have to say, I'm not surprised. His community service has focused on physical, emotional, and sexual abuse in children, adolescents, and families at high risk to experience or unfortunately perpetuate further abuse. His work has included suicide prevention, substance abuse, developmental, behavioral, and other medical problems, and improving access to care to vulnerable populations. He is the co-founder of Gender Infinity, a Houston-based educational nonprofit that provides resources and services to the transgender and non-binary community and their families. Dr. McLaughlin is the recipient of Baylor's Norton Rose Fulbright Excellence Awards for excellence in teaching as well as in educational leadership. He's also the recipient of the J. David Holcomb Achievement Award for sustained leadership in allied health education, research, faculty development, and scholarship. He's also provided extraordinary service to the college, across the college, outside of the School of Health Professions. And to that excellence and to that service, we're all deeply, deeply grateful. We thank you for your generosity and for your kindness and for your love of Baylor. He has numerous leadership positions in professional associations and also earned many community service awards. Dr. Klotman, it is my honor to invite you to present the award to Dr. McLaughlin.
All right. There it is. We get one quick little picture. Another picture again. Oh, flip it this way. Okay. We'll just keep it here. We'll be able to sell it for profit later.
I won't have an office to put it in. Thank you, Dr. Monroe, Dr. Klotman, and others for the honor of this recognition. It is a highlight of my career to be Dean of the School of Health Professions at Baylor College of Medicine. Your comments gracefully omitted that I've been at Baylor in one capacity or another since 1980, when I arrived as a clinical psychology intern. Baylor's Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences was my top choice for internship, and I didn't intend to remain at Baylor or in Houston. What I found here, however, was a progressive series of opportunities that encouraged me to apply my craft and my passions in my professional and personal life and in my community. This award, though, recognizes leadership, and I've struggled to understand how I got here. It seems more fortuitous than intentional. At the root of it, I like puzzles and developing solutions. This is common to everyone in this room, distinguished members up here on the stage and graduating students. In my case, it's felt somewhat like leadership is where you find it, in the vision and underlying conviction that things need to be done, order needs to be created from disorder, inefficiencies and inequities must be resolved, excellence must be achieved. Among the things I've learned from this drive are that despite my sometimes annoying beliefs to the contrary, I cannot always do things best myself. There's quite a lot I can't do at all, and even more that I can't do alone. Organizing teams and facilitating other people's work, it turns out, provides me a great deal of satisfaction, facilitates their learning and ownership, and accomplishes a good deal more in the long run. Just how to make that work has involved adopting a leadership principle that, like many other principles, is simple but not easy. It's this: people are easier to lead if they trust that you are taking them where they want to go. More importantly, this makes them more likely to persist when the going gets tough and to complete the journey even when I step aside. Genetic counseling graduates, you learned this lesson in the spirit and practice of motivational interviewing that you studied in health behavioral counseling. We spur others beyond ambivalence, help them to get unstuck when we elicit and truly listen to their own underlying beliefs and values, when we join in their vision of their best selves, encourage their discovery of the resources available to them, and get out of their way when they've got the hang of it. This applies across education, healthcare, research, interpersonal relationships, and community and social movements. As an educational leader, I joined a profoundly competent team at Baylor that is confident that we have adequately prepared our graduates to be leaders. It is an honor, then, to step aside. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McLaughlin. Now I'm extraordinarily pleased to introduce our 2021 commencement speaker, Dr. Carl June. A graduate of the Naval Academy and Baylor College of Medicine, Dr. June is the Richard W. Vague Professor in Immunotherapy at the Perelman School of Medicine at the University of Pennsylvania. He's also the director of the Center for Cellular Immunotherapies at the Perelman School of Medicine and the director of the Parker Institute for Cancer Immunotherapy at the University of Pennsylvania. Dr. June's pioneering work is widely recognized as a turning point in delivering on the long-held promise of cancer gene therapy, with potentially field-changing implications for the treatment of leukemia and other cancers. His lab discovered the CD28 pathway that controls T-cell growth and later developed robust T-cell culture systems that permit the growth of central memory T-cells. He has applied this work to develop groundbreaking cell-based approaches to immunotherapy of cancer and HIV infection through chimeric antigen receptor T-cells, or CAR T-cells. CTL019 and CAR T-cell developed in the June laboratory was the first gene therapy to be approved by the FDA in 2017 for the treatment of leukemia. Please join me in welcoming and celebrating this extraordinary physician and scientist. Thank you, Dr. June.
Well, thanks, Provost Monroe and Dean Klopman, and Associate Deans, faculty, and distinguished graduates of the class of 2021. I am honored and privileged to say a few words about my experiences and how they may be relevant to yours today. And so I'll direct my remarks to the graduating physicians, doctors of science in the biomedical sciences, masters of sciences in genetic counseling. And by the way, an inside family joke, my wife has a PhD and we argue about what's the highest degree. And I was dismayed to learn that actually the PhD is higher than a MD. At any rate, class of 2021, you have my highest admiration for your accomplishments. And to be honest, I'm really nervous about this presentation. I'm a committed introvert, and I take comfort in the fact that you probably won't remember anything I've said. So anyway, I hark back to my first history and physical here at Baylor. It was at Ben Taub, and I was assigned to do a history and physical on a comatose patient on a ventilator. And needless to say, I had sweaty palms, and it didn't go well. I was probably having an anxiety attack, but didn't realize it back then. I can imagine that some of you have had similar experiences with intubated COVID patients in the ICU. And I'm sorry for your unplanned voyage during COVID, but I'll point out below, lessons from my life would predict that your unplanned forks in the road at Baylor will prove useful throughout your careers. First, a few lessons from COVID and the forks in the road I've had. I graduated from medical school here back in '79, and I've had a lot of parallels. I had Bert O'Malley for endocrinology, I had Tom Caskey for genetics, and I was privileged to operate for 6 weeks on my surgical rotation with Michael DeBakey. But my mother's, who is here in the back, actually facilitated my first surgical experiments when I was a high school student. I bought pet store mice and used carbon tetrachloride, which was the cleaning fluid back then, as an anesthetic to do laparotomies. So I want to thank her for that encouragement early on. We could never do that now. But Yogi Berra was probably the funniest philosopher ever to play baseball, and once said, if you come to a fork in the road, take it. If you come to a fork in the road, take it. And as usual, there was wisdom hidden beyond Yogi's humor, and there certainly was for me. All my life, the road has thrown a lot of forks at me, and I took them. I think you too will part of your experience here at Baylor in COVID pandemic. So in 1971, when I had turned 18, I was planning to study chemistry and had been admitted to Stanford. But by luck of the draw, I got a low draft number, which meant I was probably headed for the rice paddies in Vietnam back then. So I let Stanford go, joined the Navy, and went to the Naval Academy to serve in a different way. I ended up spending 21 years in the Navy and became what is known as a yellow beret. That was my first fork in the road. It turned out that what the Navy had done, though, was start a pre-med program. And instead of ending a career in chemistry, I came here to Baylor in 1975 and moved to Houston. And after graduating Baylor in '79, I moved to Seattle, and as a postdoc, I studied leukemia at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center and became a medical oncologist. Then the Navy paid for me to study infectious disease such as malaria and HIV. And I spent a decade studying AIDS and was not able to work in my chosen specialty, which was leukemia, because of a quirk in federal funding where all cancer research is funded by the NCI, and the Navy and DOD funds combat casualty care and infectious disease research. But it turned out that was fortuitous. My lab developed the first way to grow T cells. Because of AIDS, people didn't have T cells. And as you know, unless you have an identical twin, you can't have a T cell transfusion. It's not like universal donors. If you're ABO, O negative, you can be a universal donor. So we had to figure out how to grow T cells. And then, so that was another fork in the road for me. But in 1999, I moved from the Navy, went to Penn, and began applying our HIV studies to cancer patients. And by combining knowledge from two fields, HIV, AIDS, and cancer, I was able to find things that, in my case, wouldn't have come up to a straight cancer biologist. And it turned out that we had a major advantage in cell engineering, which is to make CAR T cells, you needed how to grow T cells. And so by putting those two things together, we figured out we could actually gut out the HIV virus and use it as a tool to modify the T cells, insert the CAR, and use that for cancer patients. So by using HIV actually as a Trojan horse, we could get past the T cells defense system and make it into CAR T cells. So CARs are a fusion of B and T cells, which you probably heard about for a week in your immunology, and a basic building block of the immune system. And we named CAR T cells after that fantastic fire-breathing creature from ancient Greek mythology, a monster with a lion's head, a goat's body, and a serpent's tail. So if it hadn't been for the Vietnam War, I probably never would have worked on CAR T cells. So class of 2021, who knows where your careers and life trajectories will go? They've been modified for sure by the pandemic, and you will have to embrace change, risk, and uncertainty. So the lesson is you have to take forks in the road. So when I graduated from Baylor, I thought first and foremost that I would be a practicing internist and oncologist. However, the lab became gradually more interesting to me, and I switched from reading the New England Journal of Medicine every week to Science and Cell and Nature. And my family now says that my MD now stands for mouse doctor. So I'm sure many of you will benefit similarly from the flexibility of your degrees here in healthcare sciences, and so that you too can follow your instincts. So after 20 years of bench research in cell therapy, we finally began treating leukemia patients a decade ago, 2010. And our team first treated 3 patients with end-stage chronic lymphocytic leukemia, a form of incurable leukemia that affects about 20,000 patients a year in the United States. And the first patient we treated was a retired Marine sergeant. He had only weeks to live, and in fact, it only had already paid for his funeral. And the cells were infused in 2010, August 31st. And within days, he had high fevers, got worse, and was transferred to the ICU and had multiple organ failure. He was given last rites. But then came another fork in the road. After 28 days after the CAR T cell infusion, he woke up. And when the physicians examined him, he didn't have these massive lymphadenopathy anymore, and the splenomegaly had regressed. And they did a bone marrow biopsy on day 28, and it came back with no leukemia. And me being a doubting physician said, please repeat the biopsy on the other side. And they did on day 31, and it came back again, no leukemia. So we were dumbfounded because this had worked, frankly, better in our first human patient than it ever did in mice. Unfortunately, in February this year, he died, and he died from COVID. And you can read his obituary, but he died with no leukemia. And so we're pretty sure he was cured. So looking back to 2010, in our first 3 patients, 1 had a partial remission and 2 had complete remissions. And the CAR T cells attacked the leukemia in those patients and destroyed, between, on the basis of a lot of studies, 2.9 and 7.7 pounds of tumor in each patient. And the cartels and their daughter progeny each killed more than 1,000 tumor cells. We could prove that. So there was no precedent for that in cancer medicine. Their bodies had become, truly bioreactors, producing their own CAR T cells in the blood and tumor masses. And when our first patient died from COVID a few months ago, he still had CAR T cells. So we created a living drug that is a cancer treatment that can last for more than 10 years with a single infusion. It's the first living drug. So our next step was to get permission to treat pediatric patients, children with acute leukemia, which is the most common cancer in kids. So the first patient enrolled was Emily Whitehead. Back then she was 6 years old and had leukemia come back 3 times with intensive combination chemotherapy treatments. So we infused her in the spring of 2012, and over the next few days she didn't get better. In fact, she got much worse. And this was the scariest fork in the road. On a Friday, 3 days after infusion, she was on life support in the ICU with kidney failure, lung failure, and comatose. And her fever was as high as 106 degrees for 3 days. And we couldn't find an infectious cause. Blood cultures and all that were negative. And but something lucky happened to me. We found something very unusual in her blood. She had very high levels of interleukin-6, a cytokine, also called IL-6, in the blood that can cause fever. And by sheer coincidence, one of my daughters has juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and just a few months before that, a drug called tocilizumab that blocks interleukin-6 signaling had been approved for the treatment of JRA, or JIA as it's now called. And so I suggested to the physicians taking care of her in the ICU, maybe we could try tocilizumab for her. And literally, the physician, Stephen Grupp, I called him, they got IRB approval to use it off-label. When he walked into the ICU to give her tocilizumab, the ICU physician said, "You're a cowboy, for doing something like this," but it saved her life. Within hours, she woke up, and she is now 15 and a straight-A student. So we call this violent reaction. You've probably seen it here now, cytokine release syndrome or cytokine storm. I wrote a review about it in the New England Journal last year if you want to see details about it. And it turns out nearly all patients who respond get this. It's an on-target toxicity. It's completely different than cytotoxic chemotherapy, where most of the side effects are off target and don't help you get better. So now, paradoxically, our patients basically hope to get a fever after they're treated. We tell them it's going to be like the worst flu in their life. So that's part of the twisting and turning route back to health, a precision therapy. And I've been privileged to now witness a number of these Lazarus Day cases. So yet another fork in my career occurred in 2016 when I was invited to the White House to give a talk to the Office of Science and Policy. And during that talk, I pointed out the fact that of more than 400 trials on CAR T cells in the world, none of them were in the Southern Hemisphere. And after that talk, the ambassador from Costa Rica to the United States came up to me and says, "I think maybe we could work on this." And we are. So now my lab's gone down to Costa Rica 3 times and visited, and we're going to start a program. There are 5 million people in Costa Rica that have a unified healthcare system, and we're going to do the first infusions of CAR T cells in a low and middle income country. And I'm also working with Sid Mukherjee to do this in Bangalore, India, where of 1.3 billion people, 60,000 kids a year get leukemia, and there's not a single CAR T cell that's been given there. So we all have the challenge of healthcare disparities, as exemplified by, as you've watched, I mean, how do you give an RNA vaccine to people and just distribute it around? It's a huge challenge that you all will have to solve, democratizing healthcare delivery. So finally, know that life is not fair. You will fail often, but if you take risks, you will take advantage of those challenges. Just never give up. If you do those things, you will find that you will leave the world a better place than you find today. You can change the world. I can say it no better than the National Lampoon did when I was at Baylor. Go placidly amid the noise and waste, and remember that what comfort there may be in owning a piece thereof, avoid quiet and passive persons unless you are in need of sleep. Rotate your tires. Speak glowingly of those greater than yourself, and heed well their advice, even though they be turkeys. Know what to kiss and when, and consider that 2 wrongs never make a right, but 3 do. And whenever possible, put people on hold. Be comforted that in the face of all aridity and disillusionment, and despite the changing fortunes of time, there is always a big future in computer management and being a TSA agent. So you are a fluke of the universe. Congratulations to the class of 2021.
Thank you, Dr. June, for those inspiring remarks. It's now my pleasure to invite Farah Lahda, President of the School of Health Professions Genetic Counseling class, to offer remarks on behalf of the class of Genetic Counseling graduates.
Good evening, students, faculty, family, and friends of Baylor College of Medicine. I'd like to first offer my congratulations to all of the students that are graduating here today, and I'm honored to address you all on behalf of the Genetic Counseling class of 2021. To my fellow classmates, it has been a pleasure and honor to grow with all of you, to have felt your support, and to offer my support in return. This class has proven its resilience, its drive and determination, and has proven that a positive perspective can go a long way. We could not have made it to this point without the constant support and guidance from our program leadership, Dan and Salma, who have been cheering us on every step of the way and ensuring that we had all the resources we needed to succeed. It's true what they say, nothing worthwhile is ever easy, especially during the unprecedented times that we're in. The COVID-19 pandemic certainly changed the way we interact with one another, the ways that we learned, and it even changed the way we gained our clinical experience. Throughout the journey of graduate school, I often remember thinking to myself, just keep swimming. Who would have thought that this little quote from a movie we watched so often in our childhood would soon be our mantra for graduate school? But nevertheless, even when our coursework was piling up, when we hit bumps in the road in our thesis projects, and when life was throwing every curveball our way, just keep swimming reminded us to persevere through the moments of difficulty. There was always that light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is this moment here today where we're able to celebrate our accomplishments in front of our fellow graduates, faculty, friends, and family here and afar. We have been supported and inspired by our faculty members, our mentors, and clinical supervisors that have dedicated their time and energy in ensuring our success. I would like to thank the inaugural Genetic Counseling class of 2020 for setting the stage for us and providing us with words of wisdom and encouragement. Thank you to Dean McLaughlin for all of your contributions for the School of Health Professions. I speak for all graduates when I say thank you to the Baylor leadership, the community, and our program leadership. As we prepare for our future endeavors, we will always treasure the values of resiliency, adaptability, and passion for making a positive difference in the community, all of which we've learned here at Baylor College of Medicine. Thank you and congratulations to the class of 2021.
Thank you, Ms. Lahda. Now I'd like to ask Dr. Robert McLaughlin, Dean of the School of Health Professions, to come forward so that he can present the candidates for the degree of Master of Science.
Dr. Klotman and Dr. Monroe, I have the high honor and privilege of presenting to you at this time the 8 candidates for the degree of Master of Science. They have satisfactorily completed all the requirements for the degree. On behalf of the faculty of the School of Health Professions, I am pleased to recommend that you confer on each candidate the degree of Master of Science and admit them to all its rights, responsibilities, and privileges.
So upon the recommendation of the faculty and by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of Baylor College of Medicine, I confer upon you the degree of Masters of Science and admit you to all its rights, responsibilities, and privileges. And I think we're going to now present degrees. Okay.
Michaela Christine Francisco. Sarah Alnor Laha. Adesha Ann Rittenauer. Lisa Faith Sabo. Emily Saluchek. Olivia Thompson. Abigail Marie Yeso.
We will now hear from Dr. Sabrina Green, representing the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences. She will offer remarks on behalf of tonight's PhD graduates.
I just wanted to say thank you. I'm happy to be here representing my Baylor College of Medicine graduate school class. I actually really wanted to use this time to talk about the importance of science communication. So what is science communication? It's teaching, informing, explaining complex science subjects simply so that a larger group of non-scientists can understand. So this is of great importance now more than ever as more people are turning to science and scientists as we weather through the COVID-19 pandemic. People are listening and seeking answers, and we scientists should speak up. So why us? So one day, I turned on the news and I counted 5 times someone said the phrase "science says" within the hour. But no scientists were interviewed about the studies they referenced. They were simply restating the major conclusions of the studies. These studies actually contradicted other studies they talked about. So this can be very confusing to the public watching. As PhD-trained STEM graduates, we make up less than 1% of the general public. A majority of people watching do not have the experience and training to really understand these scientific findings and what they really mean. But we do. We were trained to think critically and analyze scientific articles and ideas. We've actually been trained to be very effective scientific communicators. We present our own scientific work to others using simple words and imagery so anyone can understand. We can tell a compelling story about our work in a way to involve a wider audience. It's really important that we communicate this knowledge we have accumulated over the years to our family, friends, and community. By doing this, we can support sound scientific information. we can start the conversation about other issues that could potentially impact our health in the years to come. One way to start the conversation is through social media. I use Twitter to bring attention to the antibiotic resistance pandemic, which has been referred to as the silent pandemic because it's overlooked and not talked about as much. I bring attention to phages, which are viruses of bacteria, once called the forgotten cure because the general public forgot about their purpose with the advent of antibiotics. Now these phages can be used to treat these resistant infections in patients with no other option. So what can you do to bring awareness moving forward? Can a simple tweet start the conversation? We can use our words and voice to make sure that these issues are not forgotten. We are capable of doing this, and I believe it's our responsibility to do so. And I hope you all agree as well. So thank you, and congrats, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Green. And at this time, I'd like to invite Dr. Carolyn Smith, the Dean of the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences, and she will present the candidates for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy.
Dr. Klopman and Dr. Monroe, I have the high honor and privilege of presenting to you at this time 80 candidates for the degree Doctor of Philosophy. These candidates have satisfactorily completed all of the requirements for the PhD degree, including a research dissertation describing new biomedical knowledge derived from their unique discoveries. I also have the high honor and privilege of presenting to you at this time 6 candidates for the degree Master of Science. These candidates have satisfactorily completed all of the requirements for the degree. On behalf of the faculty of the Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences, I am pleased to recommend that you confer upon each candidate the degree of Doctor of Philosophy or the degree Master of Science as appropriate, and admit them to all their rights, responsibilities, and privileges.
First of all, I want to acknowledge the great shout out to MMVR for that phage comments. Upon the recommendation of the faculty and by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of Baylor College of Medicine, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and the degree of Master of Science, and admit you to all its rights, responsibilities, and privileges. So we will give you your diplomas.
Achille. Elizabeth Ann Bowling. Amanda Michelle Brown. Courtney Ann Berger. Hannah Moore Campbell. Sean Chen Chong. Ian Eugene Copeland. Lois Melissa Dodson. Joshua Graves. Sabrina Ingrid Green. Sai Wei Go. Elizabeth Jensen Halfin. Tim Wesley Hansen. Ejen Shea. Yu Su Huang. Young Shin Huang. Prasanna Kandel. Young Won Kim. Won Sak Lee. Alexandra Livinchuk. Jared Don Martinez. Nick Montion. Marissa Niha Kalahano Minor. Patrick Missile. Oscar Daniel Murillo. Aaron Matthew Muscarella. Larissa Nitschke. Kristen Meyer Pathogony. Min Nok Pham. Nung Tuyeti Pham. Tiffany Patricia Raleigh. Larry Scott Jr. Riyad Naroz Shervai. Jin Jiao Sao. Catherine Elizabeth Shelley. Julie Ann Tomalonis. Megan Vogt. Yefan Wu. Jinshin Yen. Diane Yang. Hui Yeah.
Now I would like to invite Ms. Yasmin Coffey, President of the School of Medicine Class of 2021, to share remarks on behalf of tonight's medical school graduates.
Thank you, Dr. Monroe. Our time at Baylor has been anything but a conventional medical school experience. It didn't take too long for me to realize our school is nothing like the show Grey's Anatomy. There is not as much drama, usually, and Patrick Dempsey is not a surgeon here, unfortunately. Still, I wouldn't trade it for anything, and after 4 years, thousands of lectures, a hurricane, a global pandemic, and hundreds of hours at the VA trying to get badges, tonight we officially become doctors. Congratulations, class of 2021. After the year we just had, I feel so lucky to celebrate this huge accomplishment tonight. I know, unfortunately, a lot of families weren't able to fly in for graduation due to the pandemic. In hindsight, though, this might have been a good thing, considering as of tonight, everyone in this room is ethically obligated to assist on any in-flight emergencies. And judging by my classmates' tans, I don't think a lot of us have been in a clinical setting in a little while. Still, we wouldn't have made it here without our loved ones. So on behalf of our class, I want to thank our families watching from home. Thank you for the endless support and love and for being our rocks throughout our schooling. I also want to thank our deans, faculty, and administration at Baylor for being our mentors, for dedicating endless hours of time to our needs, and for serving as our best role models. It's hard to believe the last time we were in this exact building was to get our first white coats. I remember how exciting it was to get that fresh, clean white coat with bright eyes and so much ahead of us. As much fun as we had in school these last 4 years, or 30 years for our PhD colleagues, the truth is, it was also incredibly challenging. No matter how many times Dr. Reddy told us this was good times, sometimes it really felt like bad times. How do you explain what it's like to study for days on end? To dissect a human cadaver? How do you explain what it's like to share your patient's grief or witness your first patient dying? No one can truly know until you go through it. This is why, in my opinion, our class was able to grow so close in just 4 years. We coped with shared humor and memes that were sometimes too real. We built lifelong friendships with people who were once strangers. Some of you started relationships or even married each other, which might prove how little we actually get out of here. Just kidding. But in all seriousness, I feel so grateful I experienced medical school with our class, and it's the genuine friendships built through both the good and the bad times that make saying goodbye to this school and each other just so difficult. Now, traditionally, graduation speeches impart some wisdom or advice, so I'll share 2 short things I hope we will take forward with us in this next chapter of life. The first is to be kind. If there's one thing I've learned from my patients, it's that we only know a snippet of what's going on in other people's lives. Be kind to your patients, colleagues, and friends. Hold on to empathy even when residency becomes challenging, which it will. And don't forget to be kind to yourself, because you can't take care of others if you don't take care of your own well-being. The second is pay it back. And when I say pay it back, I'm not just talking about your loans, but that'd be good. I'm talking about giving back, whether that's through mentoring, advocacy, or sharing whatever it is you're passionate about. Remember that with an MD comes huge privilege. When you talk, people will listen. So speak for those who are unheard and use your voice for good. So, young colleagues, it has been a privilege to learn and grow beside you, and it's truly been my greatest honor to represent our class. And tonight, I am so excited that the world is getting 200 brilliant, kind, and caring new physicians. Congratulations, class of 2021. We did it.
Thank you, Ms. Coffey, for your remarks. Now it is my honor and pleasure to invite Dr. Joe Cass, Associate Dean of Student Affairs, who will now administer the Physician's Pledge. Dr. Cass.
Thank you, Dr. Monroe. It is my great pleasure, class of 2021, to ask you to stand up and recite the Physician's Pledge along with me. I also invite other physicians to stand and recite the pledge as a symbol of their enduring commitment to the values of our profession. So it's on the back of the program. Along with me, please. As a physician, I solemnly pledge to dedicate my life to the service of humanity. The health and well-being of my patients will be my first consideration. I will respect the autonomy and dignity of my patient. I will maintain the utmost respect for human life. I will not permit considerations of age, disease, or disability, creed, ethnic origin, gender, nationality, political affiliation, race, sexual orientation, social standing, or any other factor to intervene between my duty and my patient. I will respect the secrets that are confided in me even after the patient has died. I will practice my profession with conscience and dignity and in accordance with good medical practice. I will foster the honor and noble traditions of the medical profession. I will give to my teachers, colleagues, and students the respect and gratitude that is their due. I will share my medical knowledge for the benefit of the patient and the advancement of healthcare. I will attend to my own health, well-being, and abilities in order to provide care of the highest standard. I will not use my medical knowledge to violate human rights and civil liberties, even under threat. I make these promises solemnly, freely, and upon my honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cass. And now Dr. Jennifer Christner, Dean of the School of Medicine, will present the candidates for the degree of Doctor of Medicine. Dr. Christner.
Dr. Klopman and Dr. Monroe, I have the high honor and privilege of presenting to you at this time the 200 candidates for the degree Doctor of Medicine. They have satisfactorily completed all the requirements for the degree. On behalf of the faculty of the School of Medicine, I am pleased to recommend that you confer upon each candidate the degree of Doctor of Medicine and admit them to all its rights, responsibilities, and privileges.
Normally when the parents are here, I take this opportunity to remind everyone, all the medical students, that you actually don't get a degree unless I confer the degree to you. And at this point, I usually just walk, no. But they're at home, and it doesn't have the same impact. They're all pretty excited to see you get your degrees. Anyway, upon the recommendation of the faculty and by the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees of Baylor College of Medicine, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Medicine and admit you to all its rights, responsibilities, and privileges. So we will get you your degrees.
Gabriela Rafiq Abulkhair. Joshua Matthew Adams. Vedika Agrawal. Yo Wan On. Abraham Akbar. Alexander Jacob Alexander with highest honor. Bradley Kyle Alexander. Jared David Alexander. Nicole Leah Alexander. Omar Imtiaz Ali. Andrew Michael Alter. Lindsay Diane Alter. Centura Rohini Umbarasu. Mark Daniel Bailey. Varun Bansal. Olivia Aguilar Barone. Mason Thomas Benning. Pauline Margaret Behrens. Anna Elizabeth Berry with honor. Brandon Emilio Bertot with high honor. Mohammed Fahim Balal with high honor. Varun Girish Bora. Jeremy Preston Brown. Brittany Elizabeth Bryant. Captain Adam Christian Burgess. Benjamin Chung-Yu Chang. Ritoti Chatterjee with honor. Kevin Ming Chen. Courtney Chin. Hee-Won Choi. Jenna Chu. Imogen Clover Brown. Ziba Kola with highest honor. Daniel Cochado Nunez. Jacob Ryan Conroy. Rachel Lauren Kelly. David Crawford. Annie Dye with honor. Brendan Ton Dang. Ton Van Dang. Esteban Sean Davila. Priyanka Sanjay Deshpande. Nicholas Alexander DeVito. Yelena Dokic with honor. Jose Rafael Dominguez. Christina Dwan. Michael Dwan with highest honor. William Case Franco with honor. Miguel Franquiz with high honor. Christy Adrian Fu. Jason Thomas George. Elizabeth Ann Gerzina. Jay and Joe. Jonathan Austin Go. Elizabeth Louise Godfrey. Samya Gojia. Caitlin Elizabeth Gold. Shri Gopakumar. Nicole Gross. Rachel Elaine Grabard. Lauren Lemaire Gray. Anastasia Sarah Grebe. Lucia Guerrero. Lucy DeVoe Hart with honor. Britt Lee Helt. Elizabeth Ann Hoyer. Joanne Eno Sue with highest honor. Ellen Ding Hu. Angela Huang. Michael Harrison Humphreys. Ann Huynh. Joseph Newton Jackson. Maria Alejandra Jaramillo. Eleanor Grace Johnson. Catherine Henning Jones. Manisha Giulicanti. James Matthew Jerica. Yasmin Coffey with honor. Jacob Lewis Krause. Elizabeth Skye Kravitz. Peter Nels Kundert. Timothy Min Law. Michael Twan Lamb. Alexander Kirkendall Lang. Jonathan Lash with high honor. Jeremiah Minjae Lee. Scott Master Lee. Monica Miao Lee with high honor. Cynthia Shuang Liang. Daniel Liao. Margaret Lee with honor. Lindsay Jean Limbaugh. Gary Liu. Gregory Long. Elise Rose Lopez. Lizelle Chua Lopez. Martavius Trevion Loval. Assad Loya with highest honor. Brendan Reed Lucari. Alejandro Macias. Rachel Mady. Tahir Afiz Malik. Haley Gilbertson Merrick. Alexander Arthur Marzek. Alexa Lee Mason. Christina Charcy Maxey. Alexis Galen McCathern. Hannah Marie Meyer. Matthew John Meyer. Grace Palmer Miles. Travis James Miles. Ann Elizabeth Miller with honor. Rachel Louise Miller. Eric Rodolfo Molina. Anusha Moturu. Laura Ann Marato. Rachel L. Mushalik with honor. Alexander Vu Win with high honor. Amanda Jean Wynn. Hyen Hong Win. Captain Daniel Kieran O'Connor. David Scott Olson. Jacqueline Catherine Olive. Marco Perez. Sonia Gomez Parra. J. M. Patel. Rajan Patel. Shiv J. Patel with highest honor. Shreya Sanjay Patel. Ujjwal Ishu Pathak. Kelly Suzanne Payne with high honor. Courtney Nicole Petty. Anna Delina Polliner. Valencia Potter. Anjali Raghuram with high honor. Priya Ramachandra. Ryan Wade Richardson. Isaiah Gilbert Rope. Bianca Renee Rumbado. Felix Nando Rubio Jr. Sydney Julia Sachs with honor. Alyssa Nicole Salisbury. Lyndon Shee. Dipankar Kumar Sinha. Hamsini Shiraman. Ashwin Srivastava. Jeffrey Quatrong Tan with honor. Andrew Coleman Thorson. Benjamin Mace Todd. Richard Tong. Jessica Tran. Vin Tran. Akara Elaine Turner. Catherine Ann Utek. Gabriel Enrique Vasquez Velez. J. Jason Vanette. David Thomas Vienne. Alexandra May Villagran. Jerry Wang. Julia Wang. Vivian Shenyi Wang with honor. Eric Wang. Renata Yvonne Wetterman Capo with high honor. Cassie Nicole Weiland with honor. Claire Jordan Wiggins. Mary Taylor Winston with highest honor. Kendall Nicole Wolkenstein. Nicole Sue Wong. Audrey Lee Morgan Wright. Catherine Yen Wu. Laura Wu. Jason Patrick Shu. Junru Yen with highest honor. Peter Yoon. Winnie Zhang. Marushri Zope.
I would invite all the graduates as well as our distinguished party on the stage to please stand for the benediction by Rabbi Pamela Silk, Associate Rabbi, Congregation Emmanuel.
Creator of all and source of blessing, Makor Chaim Vracha, we rejoice in celebration at the graduation of these talented doctors. Our hearts overflow with thanksgiving for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon them, for the gifts of curiosity and tenacity, of perseverance and strength. We thank you. For the love of devoted family and friends who have walked alongside each of these graduates and helped them to achieve their goals. We thank you. For the commitment of Baylor's outstanding faculty and staff who dedicate their life's work to teaching and training the next generation of professionals and modeling the highest level of service and care, we thank you. O healer of healers, help us to remember that we are spiritual beings in physical form, and that to treat and care for the mind and body means also to treat the soul. In all we do, we are partners with you, and we serve you best by caring meticulously for ourselves and each person with whom we interact. Grant these graduates the strength of spirit to do their work with integrity and a real sense of joy and fulfillment. May their humanity and compassion rival their practical skills. Help them to walk in humility and grace and champion those most needy in our community. We ask for your blessing in words that are ancient and hallowed by time. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'huneka. May the light of God's presence shine down upon you and be very sweet and gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's goodness always be turned to you and grant you the greatest blessing of all, peace and a world of peace. Amen.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Silk. Congratulations to all the graduates who are now officially alumni of the Baylor College of Medicine. A sweet sound. A sweet sound. Alumni. Remember that in everything you do, you carry us in our hopefully you carry us in your hearts. But please know that even though you're departing from this place, although we are grateful that many of you have chosen to stay, you will never leave our hearts. You're a part of our family, and we bid you Godspeed. I know that you will continue to serve your communities, to continue to strive to excellence, and make the world a better place. We are deeply proud of you. It's over, guys. Woo!
All right. Hello. Everybody, you can exit to your right, and you can turn in your regalia if you're returning it now. And you can also pick up additional programs in that room.
Well, this is quite the occasion.
Yes, it is. Congratulations.
Delighted every time this happens.
Yeah, it's a great sense of accomplishment.